back to the Check Swing Podcast with me and my man Miguel, and of course down there, y'all know him. That's Coach Hunter down there. And this is the Check Swing Podcast, Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. We are live, and you can see Coach Hunter is on location. I'm not going to say where he is, but he's on location having a good time. Miguel is in his studio, and I'm in mine. And I just wanted to mention that at halftime of the Maryland Eastern Shore Dell State game, Eastern Shore was up 27-14.
Nice.
Yes,
A
sir.
brother like me, of course, got a little bit of scratch on the game. I'm just saying. Um,
Hawk fan,
when
Hawk
you go up
fan
against
fly.
rivals, you got to do something about it. Yeah, you understand. But like you guys know, everybody knows how I like to start the show. And fellas, how have you been?
You go first, Mr. Hunter, Mr. Coach Hunter.
Oh man, it's a beautiful week. We're halfway through the work week right now. It's been a grind. I'm out enjoying myself, having a couple drinks this evening on location. So I said I wanted to make sure I got the show in. It's Black History Month. I'm excited. It's it's finally our 28 days. So I'm just enjoying it. I'm just enjoying the shortest month of the year.
So interesting. Before you go, Miguel, I'm gonna comment on it. Interesting enough, I was just having to look. I wanted to look up other countries that may celebrate Black History Month. And I want to say it was either Great Britain or France that celebrates like Black History Month, but they celebrate in October. Excuse me, their Black History Month is in October, so they get the full 31.
And then,
Do you know why? Do they
yeah, I
happen
was
to
gonna,
mention why?
I didn't go that deep into it because I was just going country to country to see who actually celebrates Black
Gotcha.
History Month.
it
Gotcha.
makes sense that the French, because the especially they love black people. Like they want to. I mean, they had like Marvin Gaye over there the first time.
Marvin Gaye lived over there for a while,
He
didn't he?
lived over there for a
Yeah.
couple. He was also trying to evade taxes, so there was a couple. It was
Oh,
a multi-purpose thing too. So he was going through a bad part of time. But I mean, like James Brown had like many tours there. Jill Scott. Today like the French love black people.
The roots.
roots are huge over there. They're
Yep.
huge over there. They're huge here too, but they're huge over there.
But yeah, they bigger in France than they are in the United States, which is
And
crazy.
a lot of American acts are
Yep.
Yeah.
over in other countries. Miguel, how you been, brother?
I've been well, sir. Living it up here in the DMV. I must announce we actually went through. We're going through the process of starting to look for a home down here, and we got our first pre-approval today.
Nice.
Congratulations.
So, all I gotta say is get your credit right because it'll get you good money.
Amen.
Oh yeah.
Amen to that.
Hey,
Real
when y'all get
talk.
a house, make sure there's an extra room. However many rooms you need, there needs to be one extra room so I can come spend the night.
It's seriously. We listen. We got guest plans, man.
I'm
So
spending the night, not
yeah,
spending the
but
night.
but you
Spending
but
the
you, but you got to give us notice. This ain't no yo man. I'm stuck up the Eastern Shore. Can I hang out for the night? Can't be like that.
night. My man Jason Littlejohn, what up, Jason? You want to stick around? You might want to stick around. We're going to be mentioning a West Virginia resident today on the show. So you might want to stick around for that, man. Appreciate you checking in. Um,
WVA.
a West Virginia resident. And it is Black History Month, and we're going to be talking about some things dealing with uh blacks in sports and in baseball in particular. And if you were, excuse me, if you were on Google today, which probably like I don't know if there's a day I don't use Google.
You got a Google phone, correct?
Damn, yeah, I got a Google phone. So
Hello.
there's no day that I don't use Google, right? I do have a Google phone. This is my second actual Google phone, and if they don't get right, I'll be going back to same time. But with that being said, none of them are paying me either, so that's all I'm going to do about mentioning them. But if you were on Google today, there was a celebration of a woman named Tony Stone, and I'm going to pull up this
Yeah.
picture of Tony Stone right here. Here we go. Tony Stone, West Virginia resident, um, one of the first women to play professional baseball. with the men for the Indianapolis Clowns Negro League. So she was also one of the first women to play Major League Baseball. Okay, now that Negro Leagues have been recognized as Major League Baseball, she was not only just a Negro League player, she was a Major League player. Okay, so shout out to her. I didn't. Let me pull up my stats here for her. I'm sorry, not my stats, but my little cheat sheet here. As I was just going through pictures, and you know how you go through Google and you get lost, like you go down that rabbit hole or wormhole, whatever they call it. That's me. That's
Rabbit hole.
me.
It's a
Yeah.
rabbit hole. I've never heard of wormhole.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
the
that's something else like
wormhole is a
viruses.
whole different. That's a whole different category.
It's a whole
It's,
different thing. But yeah, she's from Bluefield. She was born in Bluefield, West Virginia. Played for the
yeah.
Indianapolis Clowns as well as the Kansas City Monarchs. So she went to well, her father was a graduate of Tuskegee Institute, now known as Tuskegee University. He also served in the United States Army during World War I. But she had a career that you can really look at. We probably want you to go ahead and look at it, look through it yourself. But shout out to Tony Stone, Indianapolis Clowns. Guys, thoughts on Tony Stone. Thoughts on a woman playing professional baseball, Major League Baseball.
Um, I was distracted by the broken glass. I thought a fight was breaking out.
Okay.
I heard
You
it too.
saw my reaction.
You had this look on your face. Not now. Not now. Take it outside. Um,
As you know, Ryan is on Coach Hunter, excuse me, is on location.
This is live. This is
it's
live. You can't make these things up.
And
This is live. So whatever happens, happens.
we
We
don't
can't we
and
can't cut scenes. We can't go to the next. There's no pause. I might be able to hit the mute button fast enough, but that's it.
yeah,
But my reaction, it's amazing, and I think uh, Coach Watson. We were having this conversation earlier. We make up less than 10% of the game, but we are more than 50% of the history book when it comes to baseball
the record book.
and the record book
Mhm.
when it comes to baseball. So we recognize feats like this, and for something that was so normal to us is extraordinary to the world. And I just want to applaud her accomplishments because it's not something that we saw every day. And it's not something that got enough recognition, obviously, until now when professional baseball began to recognize Negro League Baseball on that level. I'm curious to actually find out, and I know our resident historian is going to have some more information on it. But I was interested to find out that since she played for the Clowns, was she around during the Hank era?
Hank.
so
Well, she played for the Clowns. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Miguel. You're
no, no,
the
no.
not
She
me.
played up until like 1954, which is
Right.
around the time that the Negro Leagues kind of dissolved. Because by that time, of course, with Willie Mays and Hank Aaron already made it to the big leagues, there was really no, in people's eyes, no purpose for the Negro League. So there is a story out there that, of course, is kind of disputed and maybe a myth, but she allegedly got a hit off of Satchel Paige after somebody taunted her by saying, go back home and cook your husband some biscuits.
Wow.
So,
Ooh.
again, it kind of it's. I'm actually saddened only because it's the first that I've heard of her.
Mm.
Prior to I'd say even within the last week, and I think it's a shame. I'm still mixed about Major League Baseball making the decision that Negro League stats are going to count towards Major League totals because it's like we already knew that. It's like why. I mean, I can go on a long diatribe about it, but it's great that it's being noticed now. But just like with Buck O'Neill being admitted to the Hall of Fame posthumously, it's like I would love to see more people of color being celebrated while they're alive.
I
Feel good.
completely agree.
Which
And baseball is one of those sports, obviously, where it's baseball was obviously segregated for a very long time, and it was one of those games where Although we were extremely dominant, our number in participation was capped strictly by the league. So we weren't allowed to participate. And then they picked and chose who they allowed into this fraternity. It just so happens that they weren't going to select the mediocre players to be in the big leagues. When they took African American players, when they took black players, they took the best of the best. And that's what I was alluding to we're the majority of the record holders in the game, but yet we were so limited in our participation. And I don't think that it's any mistake that our numbers have maintained to be less than 15% of the game over the last 30 years because that selection process is very slim. Those gatekeepers maintain who gets in and who doesn't. And at the same time, it doesn't really matter unless you're supremely talented as an African American baseball player, your chances to making it to that level are extremely slim. And then staying at that level are extremely slim because you have to conform to what's around you. We could talk about this for the next 2 hours, and I know we got other things to talk about tonight on the show, but I don't want to go off on a tangent too long, other than to salute all of the black baseball players out there who either made it to that level, they worked hard to get where to whatever level they got to. Because regardless of how far we got, where we got is an accomplishment. I look at, some of us just playing at the Division 1 level was a huge accomplishment because there aren't many people that can say that they competed at the level that we competed at. And so every milestone that one of us reaches is another step forward for all of us. So I applaud all of those trailblazers that came before us.
Absolutely. And I thought about something. As Arlat, whatever that name is. I'm sorry. There's a lot of they say hi, so I just want to say hi back. Just want to acknowledge you, appreciate you.
Just make sure he's not Russian.
Doesn't matter as long as they're not spamming us.
We got a
um,
lot of, we got a lot of Russian spam the last couple of weeks.
yeah, on all the shows now, we must be getting popular.
Yeah,
But there's something that I thought about. There's always been one of my favorite movies growing up was A League of Their Own. I used to watch that movie
yes,
all the time. I knew I could. I used to be able to. I knew all the words to the movie. Right. There's one scene in The League of Their Own where a black woman. However, I don't even know how it happens. Somehow the ball gets to the black woman, and she launches the ball, and that was it. That was like the end of the scene for this black woman. She didn't have any lines. They didn't mention her again. Nothing. There was no explanation of who she was. It was just known that she was not allowed to play with them because she was a black woman.
I like the look though. She was like, and then just turned around and walked away, went about her business. I was
But
like,
I
wow.
wonder if that black woman in that movie was supposed to be Tony Stone because that was a very significant scene, and especially seeing today Tony Stone being celebrated by Google. That seems very significant. Now, when you think about um, A League of Their Own, think about the movie League of Their Own. That league came together because of
Two.
World War II, because of World War II. Excuse me. Her father was in World War I,
Right.
so that means maybe by World War II she's a little older. She might be that age. It could have been one of them things. Now, Miguel, in that picture, it looked like she was wearing possibly. I want to say possibly it was a gold chain. I don't know. It's a black and white photo. Can't really tell.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, in that movie, that woman was also wearing a gold chain.
See, I'm glad that you pointed it out, but it also points to the fact that like unless you are a real student of the game and history, I'd say 95% of the people that actually watch that movie completely missed that part.
Mm.
They think about
It
there's no
was so
crying.
quick. It was so quick.
It was so quick. they weren't thinking. All they're thinking about is there's no crying in baseball, and a drunk Tom Hanks playing baseball manager, and all
Mm-hmm.
the stuff in between, and the exciting ending of the movie. But that one scene, I remember that scene like it was like it was right now, but it was subliminal enough that it was kind of pushed into that 5 to 10 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
but no explanation. And that's kind of the stuff that we've had to deal with, black and brown people, where like even if we're rewarded with something, it's like, well, you got to figure out what that was. It's hitting off on this. We gave you your credit, but it's like in the 19th minute of the movie. You know what I mean?
Right. Right, I mean, and it's just very interesting. I would love to do the research on that. I think I'll do the research after the show is over, and I'll see, if that was, who that was. But excuse me, excuse me, sorry about that. But shout out to Tony Stone. Thank you for your contributions to the game. Um, and I look forward to learning more about Tony Stone and some of the other women that also were professional baseball players in the Negro Leagues. As people try to photobomb or show bomb Coach Hunter back there, somebody trying to somebody trying to get some stats back there, trying to look like they're not paying attention, like they don't know he's on
No,
TV.
No,
it's
no, what it
no,
is,
it's almost closing time. They
Yeah,
already
he's on
got
TV.
this stuff up around me.
well, that, and if her manager's watching, she wants to show that she's actually doing work that she didn't do the last 2 days.
Um, now, being that it's Black History Month, we always talk. We all talk about the accomplishments of minorities, especially African Americans, during this month. But we also know that did not come without struggle. That did not come without um, the type of mentality from other people, from non-minorities. Is it good? That didn't come without the struggle of the mentality, excuse me, of the non-minorities towards black people that had kept them suppressed. Miguel brought to my attention a very interesting interview that happened. I'm sure it was in the 80s. Um, Ted Koppel. Actually, I'll let you introduce it, Miguel.
Well, what spawned me going to this video was actually the hiring of Lovie Smith as the head coach for the Houston Texans.
Which we will also get into today.
Right. And right off the bat, it just seemed, because NFL is such a connoisseur of timing, right? I felt like it was kind of a compromise hire because of what's going on with the Brian Flores, lawsuit. And the first thing that kind of popped in my head is like, why don't black coaches get hired? Why is there all this like rigmarole around the process? And this interview comes to mind because it's Al Campanis, who was the general manager for the Los Angeles Dodgers for almost 20, 30 years. He played with Jackie Robinson. This interview was actually the 40th anniversary of the day Jackie Robinson broke the race barrier. So this was April 14th, 1987, the year before the Dodgers won their second to last World Series. And Ted
Which is now
Koppel,
known today as Jackie Robinson Day in Major
which
League.
now know right, Jackie Robinson Day. So Al Campanis was the GM of the Dodgers hierarchy front office of the Los Angeles Dodgers at that time. And it's a joint interview with a Roger Kahn, who was a baseball writer or baseball storyteller, writer, author at that time. So it's a real quick 5 minutes, but at the end, I want to ask a crucial question. So I'm gonna.
You're gonna make me think.
Yep.
I
So you
don't
got
like
me on the
it.
share.
So here we go.
Yeah.
So, although we all can rejoice in the progress of baseball's maiden immigration, I think if Jack were alive today, Jack would say, how come there are no blacks running ball clubs?
Mr. Campanis, it's a legitimate question. You're an old friend of Jackie Robinson's, but it's a tough question for you. You're still in baseball. Why is it that there are no black managers, no black general managers, no black owners?
Well, Mr. Koppel, there have been some black managers, but I really can't answer that question directly. The only thing I can say is that you have to pay your dues when you become a manager. Generally, you have to go to minor leagues. There's not very much pay involved. And some of the better known black players have been able to get into other fields and make a pretty good living in that way.
Yeah, but you know in your heart of hearts, and we're going to take a break for a commercial, you know that that's a lot of baloney. I mean, there are a lot of black players, there are a lot of great black baseball men who would dearly love to be in managerial positions. And I guess what I'm really asking you is to, peel it away a little bit. Just tell me, why do you think it is? Is there still that much prejudice in baseball today?
No, I don't believe it's prejudice. I truly believe that they may not have some of the necessities to be, let's say, a field manager or perhaps a general manager.
You really believe that?
Well, I don't say that they're all of them, but they certainly are short. How many quarterbacks do you have? How many pitchers do you have that are black? It's same.
Yeah, but I mean,
applies.
I got to tell you, that sounds like the same kind of garbage we were hearing 40 years ago about players when they were saying, not really cut out. Hey, you remember the days, they hit a black football player in the knees, and no, that really sounds like garbage. If you forget to say so.
It's not garbage, Mr. Koppel, because I played on a college team, and the center fielder was black, and then the backfield at NYU with the fullback who was black. Never knew the difference of whether he was black or white. We were teammates. So it just might be that why are black men or black people not good swimmers? Because they don't have the buoyancy.
Oh, it may just be that they don't have access to all the country clubs and the pools. But I'll tell you what, let's take a break and we'll continue our discussion in a moment. Continuing our conversation now with Al Campanis and Roger Kahn. Mr. Kahn, how much courage did it take on Branch Rickey's part?
It took enormous courage, and he was threatened with ostracism by all of the other owners. The people that Red Smith used to call the fatheads who run baseball. Well, that phrase comes to mind because I think the real reason there are no black general managers is that there are a sufficient number of fatheads running baseball who think blacks aren't intelligent enough to be general managers. Al Campanis has been a friend for 40 years, and it doesn't only have my respect. The Dodger record tells us what kind of a baseball man he is. But let's say what it is, that there is a sense that the black can work in the field. He can work in the cotton field, and he can work on the ball field. But ask a black to use his brain, run a team, plan a team. Oh my goodness, you're talking about real integration there.
Yeah, Al Campanis, from everything I understand, you're a very decent man and a highly respected man in baseball. I confessed to you before we began this program, baseball is not one of my areas of expertise. I'd like to give you another chance to dig yourself out, because I think you need it.
Well, let me just say this, Mr. Koppel. How many executives do you have on a higher level or higher echelon in your business?
Yeah,
in TV.
You're absolutely right.
Or anchormen. How many black anchormen do you have?
Fortunately, there are.
Turnabout.
Yeah, fortunately, there are a few black anchormen. But if you want me to tell you why there aren't any black executives, I'm not going to tell you it's because the blacks aren't intelligent enough. I'm going to tell you because it is that whites have been running the establishment of broadcasting, just as they've been running the establishment of baseball for too long, and seem to be reluctant to give up power. I mean, that's what it finally boils down to, isn't it?
Well, we have scouts in our organization who are black, and they're very capable people. I have never said that the blacks are not intelligent. I think many of them are highly intelligent, but they may not have the desire to be in the front office. I know that they have wanted to manage, and some of them have managed, but they're outstanding athletes, very God-gifted, and they're very wonderful people, and that's all I can tell you about them.
Well, he was reeling faster than somebody trying to catch a blue in the deep blue sea, wasn't it?
We used to play tag, and I remember I would always just start
that was
to get under the wood and
Ted Koppel interview back in 1987. You said,
'87.
87 on Jackie Robinson Day.
So
That
the first thing that came to mind was kudos to Ted Koppel because he was woke before woke was woke. You know what I mean? And he really came at him, challenging that status quo, challenging that mindset. But everything that I heard from the paying your dues to, they do well in other fields to lacking the necessities, has it changed? Has the mentality of the what was the term that he used? The fatheads? Has the
Fathead. Yep.
mentality changed? Has like with the whole thing with the NFL, like I know they have the Rooney Rule, but it's starting to show and be proven that the Rooney Rule is just a farce. It's just a quota to look good, but there's no real progress made.
Right. Right. One thing that stood out to me, and I don't know if it was a jab, and it's a somewhat off topic. What was it? The other guy was speaking. The
Oh,
reporter,
the writer, his name is
the writer,
Roger Kahn. Yeah.
Roger. So he said, and I don't know what he was referring to, but it almost sounded like a jab, where he said something about the record of the team he's dealing with right now, like something about. I wish I wrote it down because now I sound stupid, but he said something about. It sounded like it was a jab, like he wasn't as great as a baseball guy as he thought he was because his
Oh,
team
he's
wasn't all that great.
right. Well, what he was trying to say was he actually said that he was a great baseball guy, but that's when he correlated him to the fatheads. So he's like, out of respect to Campanis, he's been it because even before that interview, he was the general manager for the Dodgers in the '70s. They went to the World Series in '74, '77, '78, and won in '81. So the success was there, and it was on the backs of a lot of Black and Latino players.
Mhm.
So he complimented him as a great baseball mind, but he said he was one of the fatheads without directly calling him one of the fatheads. So that was the underhanded.
I
You
got
dig
you.
what I'm saying? He said like you're part of the problem, and then of course his counter was that Mr. Koppel, sir, how many black people do you have in your leadership position? He's like none. And he said because it's old white fatheads that control the system, and they don't want to. The key thing is they don't want to give up control. That
Right,
was key.
right. Go,
But
go ahead, Ryan. You wanted to chime in there?
so the equivalent of Al Campanis in that interview is trying to put lipstick on a pig, and the mentality of what we saw from this man in the '80s is still very prevalent in the game today. It's just dressed better. So we've gotten better at putting lipstick on the pig, but we are still putting lipstick on the pig.
Right,
And there's no way to get around that when we look at the numbers. We look at the historic numbers and say, why are these African American athletes excelling in this game? We have the top base stealer, we have the top home run guy. We're excelling in a sport that we're only less than 10% of the game. So that tells you that somebody is maintaining a measure of control on who gets into the game and who doesn't. It's not like basketball where seemingly it is. I mean, basketball is what, 80% African American? And still, in the executive levels, it is still not as prevalent,
it's
but it
not
is.
80%.
But there are more than what we've seen in the past in other sports. So in basketball, you see all but maybe 10 coaches are African American. In football, you see one African American head coach. In baseball, who is it besides Dusty? Is it anybody besides Dusty?
it's Dusty and Dave Roberts, the only
And Dave
two
Roberts.
black-born managers. There's even more of my people as managers, more Latinos as managers.
Right.
And one of the things that kind of buzzed in my ear is when he talked about lacking or paying dues. There's a coach. I mentioned this to Justin. His name is Gary Jones. He was the third base coach for the Chicago Cubs when they won their first World Series. Right over the course, he's been a manager in the minor leagues for 27 years. Won 4 minor league world championships, and he only interviewed for a manager position one time. He desires to be a major league baseball manager, but when you talk about paying your dues, it's kind of crap now because Justin, can you put that share up there real quick, please? So when you talk about experience, look at the managers that have had little to no experience and were given actual winning teams over the last, 30, 40 years. Aaron Boone, who never had a lick of coaching experience, he went straight from ESPN to a managing in one of the number one media markets in the world. The other thing that's intriguing is that when black managers do get hired, they never are given a winning team. Very rare. I believe the percentage is like between 5 to 10% of the teams that they come in as managers as are either completely rebuilding or just complete garbage. The first black manager in baseball history was Frank Robinson, who was the manager of the Cleveland Indians in the 70s. Does anybody remember anything about Cleveland in the 70s or the 80s, part of the 90s? So
I didn't know there was a baseball program in Cleveland other than the movie Major League.
Well, there's a new team in town. They're called the Guardians. They'll be playing in 2022.
The Guardians of the Galaxy?
The Guardians of the Galaxy. They'll be facing off against the Commanders of DC.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you said it. Like Cleveland stunk for a long time in baseball, up until the mid to late '90s. Like they were terrible. Matter of fact, there was a time that I noticed that when movies were made about professional teams, the team always stunk. Like they never made movies about a good team. Case Angels in the outfield. The Angels stunk at the time. Major League, the Indian stunk.
Little Big League.
What rookie of the year? The Dodgers? Was that the Dodgers?
No, that was the Chicago Cubs.
Chicago Cubs. They stunk at the time.
But you notice after all those movies were made, those teams started to become competitive.
Yes.
The fix is in, my friends. The fix is in.
It's kind of strange. But
Got a question for you guys. Who played in the World Series in Back to the Future?
it was the Cubs and the.
I'll give you a clue. They were not in existence at the time, and they actually do have a team now.
The Cubs and the Nationals.
No.
No, that would be.
It was the Cubs.
National League teams actually.
They didn't obviously say the Cubs, but they said Chicago.
Won the World Series,
and the city did not have a the team that
wasn't the symbol the Cubs symbol.
Yes, because he did say the Cubbies finally won something.
Right.
But for the team that they played against, it wasn't in existence at that point. But they are now.
They are now.
Yes.
Which
coincidentally 2021 would have been, the year for Back to the Future.
Were they an American League team in the movie?
No.
I mean, are they an American League team now? I meant.
They are not an American League team.
So it had to be the Rockies or the Marlins, right?
It was Miami.
Okay.
It was Chicago versus Miami for the World Series.
That's
wow.
Crazy. I remember the Chicago. I knew it was Chicago, but I always forget who they said they played, or if they played it, who they said.
And now that he said, I remember it being Miami. I remember thinking, there's no team in Miami.
Because that was when Biff was the old Biff, right? He's like, they finally did it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we talk about the hiring of minority managers in baseball to the hiring of a minority coach in football at a very interesting time. It has some very interesting timing to it, right? We're talking about Lovie Smith being hired by the Houston Texans. It came after the lawsuit filed by Brian Flores against the NFL, against the Miami Dolphins, against the Denver Broncos about their hiring practices and interview practices and all like that. And the lack thereof of Y'all know what it is. Okay. Lovey Smith. So I think Ryan, I think you were the first one to tell me about Lovey Smith getting the job. And my reaction was, why would he even want that job?
Why would he take that job?
That job. I mean, I don't know Lovey Smith. I'm sure there's a good reason, but from the outside, I'm not a football insider or anything like that. But just to me, like that franchise, even though they compete sometimes, they have a starting quarterback that you really don't know the status of. He didn't play all season long, and he was not injured. Um, they have gotten rid of some of their best players at a time when they could have used them the most, and it's just I just don't understand why. It's not for me to understand, but I don't understand why he would want to take that job. But I thought the timing was interesting, guys. Your thoughts on that? The timing of this hire, and why would Love even take it?
I didn't even know that Lovey Smith was a candidate for the job, let alone a viable option at that point in time.
I thought
There was so
Love
much
was done with
talk
that.
about
Honestly.
Flores still being a candidate for that job and the Saints job, which obviously he lost out on both. But Lovey Smith had seemingly never been mentioned during the cycle by any team, whether it was Houston or not. I don't think any of the 8 teams that had a vacancy mentioned Lovey Smith at all. So for Lovey Smith to come out and get the job and take the job, it was pretty interesting with the timing of the lawsuit, with still the beginning of Black History Month, with the spotlight being on there was not one African American hire to that point from all the vacancies, when there were some very qualified candidates like Eric Bieniemy and like Byron Leftwich that were still out there and didn't get any opportunity.
How was Byron Leftwich not a head coach right
How is Eric Bieniemy not a head coach yet?
That's an interesting question too. I mean, we had that discussion. That's one of the discussions we might have to have in Twitter Spaces. But it's an interesting discussion. Go ahead.
I would hire Herm Edwards again before I hired some of these guys that were hired.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it doesn't even make sense from a philosophical standpoint because Lovey Smith is a defensive coach. And if you're, trying, whatever the case with Deshaun Watson, however that turns out, whether he gets traded or not, if you do get Deshaun Watson back, what is a defensive coach how is he gonna improve the offense to the degree that it needs? Unless he gets Byron Leftwich to be his offensive coordinator, but why would he want that job? Let alone in Houston altogether. You know what I mean? So
Right, right. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, all the best to Lovey Smith for that. I wish you luck, except for when you play against the Eagles. But I want to see him succeed, just not against my team.
there
It
you
is
go.
what it is. Um, I do want to talk about one more thing regarding baseball because big news came out a couple days ago. Um, the MLB has announced, or it has come out. I don't think they made an announcement. It has come out.
Manfred is speaking tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
So there'll be something announced tomorrow. But it has come out that Major League Baseball will no longer be testing for steroids.
Now,
Well,
I believe that headline that's out there is clickbait,
yeah,
because in digging into what the understanding of that is that there was an agreement basically under the collective bargaining agreement of the MLB Players Association, is that testing was to continue through December 1st, 2021, or December 2nd, 2021.
Correct.
But with the labor stoppage, there was no new agreement on testing. So with no new agreement on testing, it's kind of like a conclusion or an assumption that testing is not going to occur during the stoppage. So
So
it
basically,
seems like testing
let me
it
break
may
that
pick
down.
it may pick back up.
It basically the amendment expired.
Expired, right?
Correct.
So to me, if that amendment expired, if that rule has expired, then there's no official rule to be tested.
Correct.
Um,
But
I
there's
know,
also a labor stoppage, so there's no game either.
right? So there's no reason to test anybody for anything.
Right.
Right.
But we all know at some point they're going to start playing again, whether it be
We
them
hope.
or replacements. There will be baseball played at, even if we're watching the Korean
Hey,
Baseball League again. There's going to
hey,
be some
call up
baseball.
those replacements. I'm ready to play. I'm ready to play, baby.
Get on
Yo,
out
man,
there.
I'm dipping my knees in ice right now.
I'm ready to watch.
I'm ready for that cortisone injection in my back, in my legs, in my neck, in my shoulders. I'm ready.
Just put it in your spine and it'll just go everywhere.
There you go.
That's it.
The other interesting tidbit on that too is that HGH testing was suspended during COVID during
Correct.
2020 season. But it's still like piggybacking on what Coach Hunter was saying. Like it's understood that once the collective bargaining agreement is reached, everything that expired they're gonna
Pick back up.
re-include it in the next agreement. So I can't imagine them just completely throwing away steroid testing because that would just completely.
Yeah, I mean, well, it brings up a few different questions though. Because we all know that probably the greatest era of baseball in our lifetime, I'm just talking about us three, was the steroid era. Let's be
Correct.
honest. It had probably the greatest number of stars players because they were, and
Do you
steroids
remember the motto of the game back then?
say again.
Do you remember the motto of the game back then?
Chicks dig
Chicks
the
dig
long
the
ball.
long
Chicks
ball.
dig the long ball.
Chicks dig the long ball. Yep. And do you remember they had pictures in that commercial? And we know pictures ain't known for that.
It was Tom Glavine and Greg Maddox.
Yep. It sure
Yep.
was. Remember that.
And you remember that because you were a damn Braves fan, you sellout.
All right, so I feel like I need to explain this again. There are a few reasons why I was a Braves. I was a Phillies fan
A
first.
poor boy from North Philadelphia.
I, I was
All
a
Ron
Phillies
Gang
fan first.
States.
I was a Phillies fan first, but I was also a Braves fan for a few reasons. The Braves had all the players I liked. All right, and here's one thing that I actually forgot about, Miguel. I had a teammate growing up whose uncle was Terry Pendleton. So and he was my catcher. So he was. I was like, oh, that's your. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna like the Braves because that's your uncle, and then I just thought somehow it was gonna be magical. I don't know, but also the Braves probably had all the black players, like all the players that look like me. The Phillies didn't have them.
So we had a conversation, and you didn't bring this up, but we had a conversation about liking teams in the
Uh-oh.
in the same leagues, in the same conferences,
Can't do it.
and we brought this up, and now I see why
But
you were so quiet during that conversation.
but let
Because
me tell you this: when that was going on, I was a very young kid. I didn't know anything.
He didn't want to
Phillies
expose
were
himself.
always terrible. So I had to have somebody root for the playoffs. So it was going to be the Braves. Sid Bream and all them. Sid Bream, Damon Berryhill,
Hey,
Otis Nixon. I'll go down the line. I remember them boys.
Otis
Phillies
Nixon
had-
is probably
Phillies-
the oldest baseball player in history of baseball.
Yo, he looked
was?
very old his entire
Otis Nixon looked 100 years old when he was a
Oh my
rookie.
god. Yeah, he was a 19-year-old, 62-year-old. It's like, what the hell?
but he could play. Man could play a little bit.
And the Phillies had black baseball players. You don't remember that West Chamberlain?
You talking
Or
about Walt
that-
Chamberlain, Ricky Jordan, Milt
And that
Thompson?
kid, Ricky Jordan. Remember the Baptiste? And what about that Kim Baptiste?
Okay, Kim Baptiste, Ricky Jordan. They were not everyday starters.
But they were black.
They started on days that they played like in the sun and the heat.
Well, West
And
Chamberlain.
I myself was outside in the sun and the heat playing. so I didn't get to see them play.
Yeah, Wes Chamberlain did platoon with that Jim Eisenreich because that was Fergosi's team, so he actually did the platoon joint. So
Jim Eisenreich was a name that I have not heard in the last 20 years.
that dude was Mr. Consistency, 300 steady fielder. And left. Oh, we had Milt Thompson. Remember, Milt Thompson
I said
Milt
Milt Thompson.
Thompson.
Well, I didn't say Milt Thompson, but yeah.
Milt Thompson was platooning with that Pete Incaviglia.
Yep.
Pete Big Inky.
Inky.
So yeah, I mean, but now let's compare that to the Braves at the time, in that same era. Yeah,
Who did the Phillies beat?
you when
Seriously?
when did the Phillies beat the Braves?
93?
Not
94?
93.
Yeah. Are you serious?
Oh yeah, they did. I'm tripping.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I was about to say-
I'm thinking the Giants. I'm bugging.
I was about
Yeah.
to say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm bugging because look, listen. I know my bad. We've talked about this so many times on the show. How the Braves and the Giants had to play each other, and the Giants had never beaten the Braves in a 4-game series, and that's how the Phillies got into the playoffs. It's the Braves. My fault. My bad. I made a mistake. I'm man enough to admit it.
This is like you getting married to the rich girlfriend or something, man. Like she's a gold digger, bro, and you're like completely blind of your love for the Braves. You forgot about the Phillies, bro.
No, I didn't forget about the Phillies. I forgot that they beat the Braves to get to the World Series that year.
Wow.
That's all that was. But anyway, in that era, who did the Braves have? David Justice, Terry Pendleton, Fred McGriff, Otis Nixon,
Marquise Grissom.
Marquis Grissom. That was a little later. Ron Gant,
Fred
Deion
McGriff.
Sanders, Brian Jordan.
The crime dog.
Like, I mean, they had all these guys, and I was just like, and they played on TBS every day.
And out of the 20 years in a row that they won the National League East, they only won one world title.
And actually,
One.
it wasn't always the NL East though, because they weren't in the NL East.
And you're right, because the year that the Phillies beat them, they were in the West for some stupid reason.
Right. So yeah, but with that being said, I forgot what my original point was. Yeah, they had all the players. A majority of their players looked like me.
Right.
And I didn't see that in my hometown. I didn't see a lot of that. So I was like, I'm gonna ride with these guys. And they had Deion Sanders. Like people, okay.
Don't include Deion Sanders.
No, okay, but I do want to say this. I do want to say this for the people that all my posts about the top 5 greatest athletes of all time, and people were mad I didn't put Deion Sanders on there above Bo Jackson. But there was for me. Listen, Deion Sanders is one of my favorite athletes of all time. It's Dr. J, Wilt Chamberlain, Allen Iverson, Deion Sanders, and a couple other ones, right? I couldn't put Deion Sanders on there above Bo Jackson for the simple fact that Deion Sanders wasn't a starter.
Thank you.
I couldn't put him on there. Deion was not a starter.
He was he was a non-tackling, fast,
and he didn't tackle
cornerback that beat the Dallas Cowboys, thankfully. So,
and like I had a homie that hit me up and said, "Yo, he high step faster than most guys ran." Guess what? So did I. At the time, I mean, I don't look like it now, but there was a time when I could high step faster than some people that were pretty slow. I'm not saying I was high stepping faster than anybody that was fast, but if he was slow, I could high step faster than you, and I'd taunt you with a football as I go down. Anyway, that's why Deion Sanders, because I said I'm not debating on Facebook. I'm only debating on air. So if you want to debate me about my list, join me on air. We can debate it, and just so it's out there. And we can probably talk about it maybe next week or in the future. My top 5, if I remember off the top of my head, my top 5 greatest athletes. I don't remember the order, but I'm gonna put it to you like this: it was Wilt Chamberlain, Bo Jackson, Serena Williams, Michael Jordan. I forgot who the last.
Muhammad Ali.
It might have been Muhammad Ali. But I don't. I would have to go to my post to find
it was Ali.
Was it Ali?
Yes, it was.
See, that sounds like somebody that wanted to debate me on that.
Oh, I
Because he
you
knew.
you
He
you
knew
saw
I
my
said,
comment. You saw my comment, and I said I
did I?
can't wait to discuss it because I have some very pointed opinions on that.
And there were some people that
Because
were
I also had some questions for you too. Because when I hear the word athlete,
right. Yeah.
and
But
it
we're not
turns
going to
into,
get
are
that
we
deep.
talking about
We'll,
respective
we'll do
sports
that another day.
versus
We'll do it
just an
another day.
athlete in general? So I get it, and that's why I wanted to discuss it. But we're gonna
Yeah,
save that for
and we
another
will
show.
discuss it. But we'll do it another day. But I will mention this: there were some people mad that I had Serena Williams on the list too.
I can't be mad at that at all.
I
I can't
can't.
be mad at that, but I can be mad at Michael Jordan over LeBron James. But I'm gonna leave that alone.
I didn't put that.
You did either it was yours or the stock index.
LeBron wasn't on my list.
I know. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. You had Michael Jordan on there.
Oh, you're mad? You're mad at Michael over LeBron?
Yes.
Okay.
When we talk about athletes, because
Okay.
winning has nothing to do with athleticism. And when we talk about athlete, but that's a whole nother debate. Let me stop. We're gonna save this for another show.
I gotta work. I gotta go to work.
Because
I ain't got
my
time.
passion was starting to come through, and I don't want to do that right now. I want to finish this drink.
Because
I want to finish this Long Island.
the
I want to
like,
finish this drink
We don't want
and
to hear
not take it there tonight.
we don't want to hear no more glasses shatter.
let me put it to you like this. I understand the debate of athlete. I get that. And like I said in the post, and I put it in capital letters. It's my list.
I saw it.
But when I think about some of the ways people dominated an era, that goes into the factor too.
I
That
agree.
factor.
And you have to include what type of impact they had. Like, Muhammad Ali, all right, he's known as a boxer. To some, he's known as a
Right.
draft dodger. To some, he's known as a faithful Muslim. But
Right.
but when people hear Muhammad Ali, like, you hear it, you see it, you hear the quote, "Sting like a butterfly, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." But he contrasted 20 to 30 years of, like, being the man, you know, and to Coach Hunter's point about LeBron versus Michael Jordan, I could see the argument. You know what I mean? Because of what he transcends the sport, not just to his team, but to also other players.
But it works both ways. So Michael Jordan and LeBron James are virtually interchangeable on every single list that's out there. You could make a case for either one of them to be the greatest respected player in the sport, depending on what generation you're looking at. And you could argue either of them as being one of the greatest athletes of all time. It doesn't matter what list it's on. But when you see one without the other, obviously there's always room for argument, because looking at whatever generation you're looking at, they both virtually had the same kind of impact. I won't say that it's essentially the same. I mean, we talk about sneakers. Jordan has had, his shoe out. Think about the cultural influence of Jordan. I got a pair of 11s on right now. So when you think about the cultural influence of Michael Jordan, but then you come to LeBron and you think about his cultural impact with a lot of social issues. LeBron James has dug in and took a stance where that was also the biggest knock on Michael Jordan, as Mike didn't step up for anything other than my money. When it came time to step up for that money, Mike stepped up. But Mike didn't step up on socioeconomic issues. He didn't step up on platforms where it impacted the people.
Not out loud.
Not out loud.
Not out loud. He did do some things behind closed doors. When you look into it, I didn't even know. I was like, damn, he did that. I ain't know. But those things are not talked about. But
right. Well, he didn't talk about them, and I think that's in this microscope era that we live in now. It's all about what are you personally doing. So when we think about the issues that existed publicly 25 years ago, Mike didn't have to step up and talk. He stayed behind the scenes because there was no necessity for him to step out and talk. Now we
There
get
would be a
into an
lot of
era.
people that would say he should have stepped up and said something when people were getting killed over his sneakers. I say maybe, but I also say that wasn't his fault.
I mean, of course, it's not his fault, and I don't think you can put any of that on the individual who the sneaker is named after. I mean, that could easily have been Iverson's shoes. There could easily have been
And any
Shaquille O'Neal's shoes.
like this day and age, they don't really shoot you over the sneaks anymore.
Right.
But we'll let's get in there because Miguel got his thing up there ready to stump me, and I
Oh
hope
yeah.
R. is ready to help me.
No. Well, look. So what I'm about to do, I'm about to bow out gracefully because I don't want to take the punishment of the stumping. So I'm about to bow out gracefully. I'm gonna finish these wings. I'm gonna finish my drink, and I want you gentlemen to have a wonderful evening because I'm gonna watch. Oh, yep, yeah. It's time for me to go. I gotta leave. I gotta leave. Hold on. No, I know.
Hold on.
I already know.
How about actually drink the drink and then answer the question? It may help you. It may help you. All right. What do you want first, there, Coach Justin?
All right, so I'm looking at it's a quarterback, right?
Maybe.
I'm looking at you got 12. I guess is that the Buccaneers?
It is. Can I give my guess, Miguel?
No,
Let him go first. Then
not a
you gotta
game
say that.
show.
He said it's not a game
Not a
show.
game show.
All right, go ahead.
But I will say I have no idea.
You what?
Trent Dilfer.
Damn, 2 in a row.
There you go.
Yeah.
I had to stop because I couldn't think of his name. I
still can't
I
believe
didn't realize he played for so many doggone teams either.
When I saw the one Pro Bowl and the one Super Bowl,
You knew right.
and then I saw the Ravens jersey, the purple jersey.
Right.
I knew exactly who it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had to think about who was a quarterback for the Ravens.
And I knew he was a journeyman.
Yeah.
At a time when the Buccaneers wore the orange jerseys. I had to think about it. Trent Dilfer. That's it. What made you pick him today?
I was just Super Bowl weekend, and the first thing that came up to mind was really bad quarterbacks that won Super Bowls, and how some of them went through the Eagles. So just thinking about that,
Let's not go there.
like Jake Delhomme and Brad Johnson. And
I would like to announce
your
the
breakdown.
University of Maryland Eastern Shore has defeated the Dell State Bumblebees 58 to 50.
Yes, sir.
Give me my money. I'll take that.
Hey, every penny of it.
Every penny of it. Every $1.11.
I just like the bragging rights because I believe at the beginning of the year, Sports Illustrated, the crappiest magazine in the world for sports, said that UMES was the worst basketball team in the nation.
He did say that.
And they are not the worst basketball team in the nation.
They're not even the worst basketball team in their conference.
Exactly. So I would love for
Hold up, Brian. Hold up, Coach.
retract.
Hold up, Coach. They're not even the worst basketball team in their state. How about that?
I want an apology from Sports Illustrated. I want them to run an apology to UMES for naming us the worst basketball team in the nation because that was clearly not true.
Clearly not true.
Hawk pride, catch it.
Hawk pride, catch it. Fly high. Any last words for you, Coach Hunter? Or were those it?
I think the drinks are kicking in.
That's it right there. Hawk pride, catch it.
Hey, Coach
last
Hunter,
words for the
you, brother.
Look. Bar is closing. It's time to go. They done put up all the chairs.
All them chairs on the table.
The waitress is waiting for my bill. She's staring me in my face. It's time for me to get out of here. The bar is closing.
tell her you doing a live interview.
I'm putting it on the tab for New Twist Radio.
Yeah, you do that.
We'll never be
after you do that.
We'll never be allowed in here again.
You run, knock some chairs over, and when you run, and throw some napkins, and just be out. Make sure you
break more glasses. We need more glasses shattered on the floor.
There's a story behind that. I got to fill y'all in on that afterwards, after hours. I got to fill y'all in. Gentlemen, well, look, you go ahead and wrap the show. I can stick around for the rest of that.
Miguel,
my waitress is mad. I'm just gonna have to let it be what it is.
Miguel, any last word?
Make sure you put start recording. Start recording. I'm just saying. Last words? No. Nothing too profound. Nothing too profound. Just no, it was just a lot to pack tonight. A lot of emotional things, especially when it comes to baseball and its history, and just at my new job, I actually got voted to be part of this diversity, equality, and inclusion council. So I'm learning a lot, from all the different groups, and some things are, we're kind of like, all right, I know about that, and just being, kind of open to different mindsets, and so it's like a new journey kind of sort of thing, but it's also, kind of going back and opening up some old wounds, just from past experiences, but, for those that, have had bad experiences, people of color, let this be kind of a time where we can just come together and, just kind of support each other, so whether you're trying to start a business or, just trying to make a change, we got your back. Let's support each other.
There you go. And I don't want to say too much after that, but I'm just going to piggyback on what I said last week. Have those uncomfortable conversations. They're freeing. You will learn something, and you might even have some a whole new respect for somebody afterwards. So don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. This is the Check Swing Podcast on New Twist Radio. Make sure you follow New Twist Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also, go ahead, Miguel.
And don't forget to tip your waitress,
Coach Hunter. And also make sure you subscribe to the New Twist Radio YouTube channel, youtube.com/New Twist Radio, and hit the notification bell too. But for for Coach Hunter, he's a different name. I'm a different name every show. For Santa, for Coach Hunter, and myself, appreciate y'all for being with us. We out of here. We'll check y'all next time on the Check Swing Podcast. Peace.